Cold, yes, very. Happy snow, you'll miss this next year. I won't miss it one bit. Not one bit. The shelves are getting emptier. Progress. Sort of. Still got to do the basement. Christian, I would grind them. New Jersey's a four-season state. No one should complain. Enjoy the beauty. Actually, I enjoyed this. I enjoyed the snow a lot more yesterday than I have in the past, only because I didn't have to go out and clear driveways at work, and I didn't have to make sure employees got to work. I just had to make sure that Hugh and I got from upstairs to downstairs. So it was fine. The only problem this morning is that everything is a sheet of ice because it went from snow to sleet to rain and very cold. So everything froze. So getting out to the barn and back was just a little bit more fun than usual. Anyway, so I wanted to talk about lab work because I had a consultation yesterday. I haven't missed snow in years. I know, Deb. I'm not really going to miss it. If I want a snow vacation, I'll go somewhere for a snow vacation. I did a consult yesterday with someone about their cat. And the cat was diagnosed as being hyperthyroid, and she wanted to try to treat the kitty with herbs and diet and not have to use the medications or put the cat through surgery because the cat's really not a good candidate for surgery. And radioactive iodine is very scary for a lot of people. I get it. Not sure if I would do it. But those are your three choices. If you have a hyperthyroid cat, you can use, you can have it go to surgery and have the thyroid tumor removed. You can send them for radioactive iodine, where they stay in the hospital for a few days. They're injected with the radioactive iodine, which selectively targets the thyroid and makes it stop producing the thyroid hormone. Or you use a drug called methimazole, and that stops the production of the thyroid hormone. The problem with methimazole is about 15% of cats will have a bad reaction to it. It can suppress the bone marrow, so that means no white cells, no red cells, no platelets. That's not a good thing. Many of these cats have hypertension and underlying kidney disease, and when we start them on the methimazole, it reveals it, and then they're also in kidney failure. So a lot of stuff going on with these cats, and a lot of them also have hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, because when you have a metabolism that is running on literally at 3 times normal, it causes a very rapid heart rate and generally a heart murmur and what we call a gallop rhythm. So instead of being lub-dub, it's lub-a-dub, 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 lub-a-dub. So 40 inches of snow in Binghamton. See, now I lived in Binghamton when I was in kindergarten and first grade, and I remember the snow being over my head. So there you go. It's not just in my imagination. Anyway, so the hypermetabolism with these cats also causes liver problems, because it actually, from a Chinese medicine standpoint, stems from a liver qi stagnation with liver yang rising. So generally we have to cool these animals off. So we would use a cooling, high moisture diet, and no one really knows the cause of hyperthyroidism in cats. It's pretty common in cats over the age of about 12 or 13. There was a theory put forth years ago that The phthalates in the linings of canned cat food could be contributing to it. And phthalates are a hormone disruptor. That's what we get from things like Roundup. And that certainly does affect the endocrine system. So that theory definitely, I think, holds some weight, but many of these cats are dry, kibble-fed cats that are not eating canned food. And from a Chinese medicine standpoint, if we look at it being a hot problem with liver qi stagnation, liver yang rising, dry kibble is going to create that because it's a dry product. It is a hot product. So we're artificially creating that in these cats from a Chinese medicine perspective by feeding them the wrong diet. So this little kitty, the owner knew that something wasn't right, and she started getting into more holistic therapies. And so 6 or 8 months ago, changed her cat to a raw diet, a home prepared raw diet. She's doing a great job with her diet. So that was great. But prior to that, the cat had been on dry kibble, because you don't know until you don't know. But the problem that I saw when I looked at her lab results was that they didn't address everything on the lab results. Yes, the cat's thyroid level was 11 something. Normal's up to like 3.5 or 4. So clearly hyperthyroid, had some elevated liver enzymes secondary to the hyperthyroidism. Unfortunately, the veterinarian sent me lab results, but not the vet records. So the owner, I said, well, did they tell you that there was a heart murmur or anything going on with the heart? And she said, no, they didn't mention that at all when, they're doing curbside. She didn't mention that at all. I said, how about abdominal palpation? Well, they said one kidney was small and one kidney was big. Now, the small kidney could be because the cat is in chronic kidney failure, just due to age or due to hyperthyroidism and hypertension. And so what happens when we palpate them and we feel a small kidney, as the kidney cells die, then they shrink up because there's no more cells left. So we'll feel lumpy, bumpy kidneys, pitted areas where the cells have died, and then that area shrinks. So we'll get a smaller kidney. The cat's kidney function was absolutely fine on the lab work. So the kidneys, you can have normal lab work down to 25% kidney function, and animals can live with only 10% kidney function. So didn't surprise me that we had a small kidney, but the question of the large kidney, how large? Was it like normal size large, or was it enlarged large? And the way that she described it to me, it sort of sounded like the vet said that the one was small, but the other one was bigger than normal. So that brought us to the next thing on the lab work that was not addressed by the veterinarian. So I don't know whether it was overlooked because the hyperthyroidism was glaring, like, okay, we have a diagnosis, or they didn't have an opinion. I don't know. But two things. One, they got urine from the cat. The urine was red and cloudy. And on the urinalysis, there were tons of red cells and a whole bunch of white cells, no bacteria seen. pH 7, so doesn't really sound like an infection, a bacterial infection, but why is there so much blood in that urine? So I said to her, well, we've got a big kidney and we've got a urinalysis that looks terrible. I think we need an ultrasound to see what the kidneys actually look like. And by the way, let's look at the liver and let's look at everything else while we're there. If everything's normal on the ultrasound, then the next step would be to get a culture on the urine to see, why are there all those white cells there? But the next key in the puzzle is the cat had a 40,000 white cell count. The cat was also anemic. So he's on a good diet, so his anemia isn't being caused by poor nutrition. His bone marrow clearly is working because it's making red cells like nobody, or white cells like nobody's business. But why does this cat have a 40,000 white cell count? You don't get a 40,000 white cell count from hyperthyroidism. So I said to her, and it was not infectious. The cat's lymphocytes and neutrophils were high, which are 2 white blood cells that go up in stress and cancer. So I said, did they address that 40,000 white cell count at all? And she said, no. I said, well, I think we need to address that. We need to go on a search. And I hate to be the bearer of bad tidings, but we've got an enlarged kidney, blood and white cells in the urine, and a 40,000 white cell count, and a very skinny cat with hyperthyroidism. So unfortunately, I'm pretty sure she's got something else going on. And what I'm really worried about is that this cat has a lymphoma in that kidney. It doesn't mean the end of the kitty, but it means we need to address that herbally. We're addressing his thyroid disease herbally. But there were too many pieces of the puzzle that were not addressed, and they need to be. And it was interesting because the owner said, oh, I work in radiology. So she knew exactly what I was talking about with the ultrasound. I said, you could get an x-ray, but it's just not going to give you as much information. We really, really, really want that ultrasound. So she's going to get the ultrasound. We'll get the results, and then we'll see where we are. But this is why it's when do you think your deer antler velvet will be in stock again? I didn't know it was out of stock. I think the one that we're out of is the life. We don't know. Shipments are on the high seas somewhere. So this is why I tell you, oh, Gwen says next week, hopefully. This is why I tell you to get a copy of your lab results. And when they go over the lab results with you, take notes on what they talk about. And then when you get that copy of the lab results, look at it and see if they addressed everything that is not within the normal range, whether it's too low, too high, because there were things here. They didn't say anything about the bloody urine. They didn't say anything about the high white cell count. I would be calling them back and saying, hey, what's this mean? You got to get some answers. So, and remember that veterinarians are a little overwhelmed with this whole curbside thing. It doesn't make practice very easy. And sometimes, I mean, I've been guilty. Doctors in my practices have been guilty of missing something on lab work. When you come in the morning and you have 40 sets of labs to read before you start doing anything, it can happen. It can happen for sure. But you need to address it. So that's why I say get copies of everything. One, you should have a notebook with all of your animals' information anyway, so that if they have to go to emergency, you have to switch doctors, whatever, you've got all that information. So, Susie's thyroid was a bit low with Hemopet. I bet they didn't recommend treating though. They might, but with all of her other conditions, I think they would say it's probably secondary to other stuff. Deb Schwartz says, I get copies of all my diagnostics. Yeah, you need to. Okay, go for blood draw and tests, get the results. Then you schedule your exam so you can discuss the reports face to face. Yeah, if you can get it done that way. Okay, back to packing. Yesterday was a long, hard day. Our house didn't appraise. We had to go through new negotiations. It's just not been fun, this whole moving thing. Luckily, a good friend who is our new financial advisor talked us off a cliff, because I also got the bill for our capital gains taxes, and, well, that's just enough to make you want to cry. Anyway, he wrote notes yesterday for dental. Always feel like I'm bothering them. Not real receptive, frustrating. Yeah, it can be. Jody Floyd with your English bulldog with yeast overgrowth. Well, you change proteins to grain-free rabbit, but if it's still a dry kibble, you're never going to solve it. Bulldogs got to be raw fed or homemade. They just don't do well on any kibble. Okay. Gotta go. Okay. So you got, let me see if I can find their bells again. Lordy. I don't even know what's on the agenda today. We have heating inspection at 10 o'clock.
Yes, we will.
Tomorrow our gas lines are being rerun to the house.
And the heat will be off.
And the heat will be off. And it'll be 30 degrees. Buckle up. Teresa, man. We only moved 4.5 years ago, but it was a local move. And it was, from 2 houses down to 1. This is from 1 to another to another. Ugh. Yeah, today will be a better day. Yesterday ended okay, but there was some alcohol, some swearing, some crying. Just that kind of day. We're getting there. Oh, and by the way, if you message me and I don't get back to you in 2 days' time, please don't get snarky. Someone snarked at me. I had a hard time being nice. I'm a little busy right now. I'll get to you, but don't get snarky. Won't end well. Haven't even thought about Christmas. Yeah, it's coming up.